Ladies and gentlemen, this Red Gaming Typical video, we're going to be discussing the Wii U for a little bit. The Wii U hardware sales have jumped a rather astounding 685% in the United Kingdom, all thanks to, wait for it, and unsurprisingly, Zelda, the Wind Waker's HD release. There was a statement that Nintendo UK's head of consumer marketing, his name is James Honeywell, said, "We have long believed that software sells hardware, and it's great to see that reaffirmed this week with the uplift of Wii U sales to coincide with the launch of The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker HD." End quote. So it's fairly obviously short, but the problem is we're not exactly sure what this means. I mean, for example, is it 600% of free consoles, or is it 685% of 100,000 consoles? We're just not sure. Regardless, it's a very good positive step for Nintendo. So let's move on to the next piece of Wii U news. Now, both Pikmin 3 and The Wind Waker have sold pretty well, at least here in good old Britain. And Shelley Pierce, who is Nintendo UK's marketing head, she has been speaking about this, and she said there was a big misconception at launch about the Wii U and one of the big messages is to explain to Mum that the new console and new controller, in terms of marketing work we've done against dads, there is now a good understanding there, but many mums don't know what this is. They're buying what they're advised to, and they're going into shops and relying on retail to explain that this is a new piece of hardware. Now, in case you're not exactly, this is out of quote, in case you're not exactly sure what this is referring to, Nintendo are targeting with laser precision parents because they believe that the console's price tag isn't the problem. Rather, it's understanding, or rather lack thereof, from parents. Because, quite simply put, they don't really understand what the difference is between the Wii and the Wii U. At least that's what Nintendo believe. What we are seeing with our monthly tracking is the Wii remains the #1 console for brand awareness, and we have done several studies, and there are many families actively playing on Wii. Perhaps sometimes as an industry we don't see it because we're so focused on core fans who are obviously not the ones that are still playing. I sit in this target audience as a mum that has kids at this age, and amongst my peer group I have people who are just buying their first console and people who are still playing the original Wii sometimes. This has got to be one of our biggest barriers, but also one of our biggest opportunities because it means we're still with the Wii, and it's still through the inside of the Tesco's deal that we know families are still playing and have not bought anything else yet. So that's a great opportunity if we can get the job right in educating people. There have been a lot of talk at the last season peak about whether the price was the barrier. We don't think it is. We think the problem is educating and giving them desirable things. This peak with the Wii U is slightly lower price than last year, and comparably it looks a little cheaper because all the other consoles coming out are much more expensive. But the value is the most important message. Backwards compatibility, the fact you don't have to buy more controllers, and that for Mum is a very important thing. Wii U is very different to those other consoles. Our heartland is with our family and kids, but we must not forget core Nintendo fans are a fundamental part of it. Yes, there is a crossover to core fans, and they will buy other consoles, but generally, those are quite different audiences. I imagine our marketing activity will look and feel very different. End quote. So this is two different messages from Nintendo. The first, and let's focus first of all on the increase in sales, so 685%. That's profound. I mean, we're not even talking like a 2 or 3 times increase in sales. When you're talking 5, 6, 7 times greater, that's something to notice. Now, of course, this does not necessarily indicate the rest of the world. I'll be curious about what, say, is going to happen in the United States. It's also a very good time to think about more crucial things. So, for example, The Wind Waker is making the system sell better. Nintendo has stated time and time again that one of the one of the concerns they've had is simply the fact that their software lineup, let's just not mince words, has sucked compared to what it really should be. They've blamed numerous reasons behind this. One of the primary ones is developing in HD. They said it didn't take as much time as they thought. It actually took considerably longer. So in other words, they budgeted a certain time frame for a title, but when they actually started to work in high definition, which of course invariably means higher resolution textures, shadows, higher polygon counts, and everything else of course that goes into a better looking game, they didn't realize that that was going to take that much longer. I'm not exactly happy with that answer, to be honest, but at least they're honest. I mean, sometimes Nintendo can be a bit too honest. Nintendo can be sometimes a bit blunt in these things, and that's fine. I prefer that rather than mincing words, which you could sometimes accuse Sony or Microsoft of doing. On the other hand, Nintendo can also be pretty stubborn. Is price an issue? Well, I guess it depends. Backwards compatibility, for core gamers it probably doesn't matter much, but for mum and dad it possibly does. Obviously, Nintendo's plan is to try and sneak under the radar and basically to convince or to educate and make themselves look or at least a decent alternative to the more expensive PlayStation 4 and of course the Xbox One, which are going to all be duking it out at around the same period of time. Obviously, if little Jimmy could have an appealing looking console that is new, that he doesn't own yet, that has some good looking games, that look, family and wholesome, then for many parents that's going to be great. The problem is many gamers now are starting to become older, and while sure, of course, there are always going to be new gamers, for the core gamers it's also going to take a heck of a lot longer. There have been some good looking titles on the Wii U. I have to confess, Zombie U looked pretty awesome, but it's going to take more than that, and we all know that third-party support for the Wii U hasn't exactly been a testament to success. That's the old vicious circle of, well, you need to have more units sold so we can create games for your hardware. Well, okay, but we can't sell the hardware without the games. Okay, well, you need to sell the hardware so we can make the games, and it's kind of the chicken and the egg situation, which is never exactly an ideal situation to be in. And it's been a pretty infamous situation that even Sega found itself in back in the day with the Saturn. I think Nintendo are doing a fairly good job. They do have a fairly reasonable launch lineup. The problem is, for many people, they just didn't feel like they had a decent incentive to pick up the Wii U because if there's nothing on it. And here's the thing. Even if you're very interested in a console, let's say you're very interested in the Wii U, but there's no games on it at the moment, but they're coming into the future. Let's say that there's 4 games that you really want, but they're not being released until 6 months' time. Let's just make up, a situation. Okay, why would you buy the Wii U now? It just doesn't make sense. Okay, you can argue, well, you could have fun on the console meanwhile, yeah, but if you're busy with other games anyway, and the games you really want aren't for like 3 to 6 months' time, it doesn't make sense to cough up the dough, because for all you know, there's going to be a special deal, maybe an add-on pack, where they put that particular game in for free at the same price of the retail console, or maybe they'll slash the price of the console, or whatever, so it just doesn't make sense to pick it up early. So Nintendo are definitely doing a good thing here, at least trying to basically pick up the slack. Obviously, Nintendo are nowhere near going broke or anything like that. Fortunately, they have, say, the new Pokemon game. I'm actually surprised they're not focused upon a new Pokemon game, especially for the Wii U. There is, of course, Pokemon's Rumble U, but they haven't really pushed that as heavily as the 3DS games, at least to my knowledge. But there you have it. Regardless, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'm actually really hoping Nintendo do start to sell better with the Wii U, because in my opinion, it's just good competition. I think both Sony and Microsoft, I don't want it just to be a two-party race. It's not just boring, but it also reduces innovation, in my opinion, in the marketplace. So I'm not saying that I expect Nintendo to be able to suddenly compete with the PS4 and Xbox One, but to at least, you know, be able to say that they're at least in the race rather than just kind of sitting there nursing a broken ankle. That would be pretty cool. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'm going to get going. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.